G'day guys, Buck up in North Queensland. Welcome to part 5, my Engel generator series. In this one here, we're going to talk about a bit of maintenance on there and also storage of the generator if you're not using it for a long time, which is quite important. Doing it nice and early on a Saturday morning, this one, part 5, because I've got a live cook up tonight. Subby fried scones. Another part of my YouTube channel. I just don't talk about generators, guys. I do a lot of cook ups and all that type of stuff too. So yeah, live feed tonight. Really looking forward to that one. Hey, listen, ran the generator in just for a couple of hours yesterday. Worked perfectly. Just put my camping fridge on there and it got it down to temperature, no worries at all. And so yeah, everything going well so far. The other thing I did too, I bought this from Super Cheap the other day, $2.50, just a little tag with unleaded on it. That way if I ever lend my generator to somebody, say a family member or something like that, if they lose power or a mate or whatever, then they know to just put unleaded fuel in there. So I saw that at Super Cheap, so I just thought I'd throw it on there. $2.50 doesn't hurt, does it? It's probably a good idea to throw them on your fuel jerrys and all that type of stuff. Yeah, not too bad. Hey, listen, I'm just quickly going to go through the maintenance of the generator. There's a comprehensive maintenance chart in the logbook there. Now, before I go into that, I've been talking about watts and kVAs. Just disregard anything to do with kVA, please, everyone. In the army, we used to have generators and everything was a 2.5 kVA or a 10 kVA or a 15 or a 30 or a 60 kVA, whatever a kVA is, kilovolt, amperes or whatever. I was under the impression 2500 watts was a 2.5 kVA, and if you Google some things, they say that. But I've had a few people say, no, Buck, it's not. And it's dead set. You've got to be an electrical engineer to get your head around it. The only thing that kind of made sense to me yesterday is Brad Howell sent me a diagram, and he's trying to explain watts and kVA and comparing it to a pint of beer. And I thought, right, I might be able to understand this. So he had a pint of beer and 8/10 of the beer was just, of the pint was just beer. And he said, that's your watts. And he said, the beer plus the froth is the kVA. Now, if anyone can get their head around that, I thought, righto. So maybe, just maybe, this is more than 2.5 kVA. I don't know. But I'm only going to refer to watts from now on. And there's no reference that I can see in this manual to kVA. I've had people that say, Buck, is 2,500 watts 2.5 kVA? And I said to someone, yes, it is. Well, maybe it's not. I don't know. It's quite confusing. There is some big bloody technical formula to come up with kVA. From now on, I'm only going to refer to watts. 2,500 watts peak and rated output 2,300 watts on this generator. Now listen, it's important, like anything mechanical we have, we maintain it. And we do preventative maintenance on it so it doesn't break down. We do it with our vehicles, we do it with our lawnmowers, we need to do it with our generators. Quickly, I'm just going to go through. I've already said in previous clips that every time you use this generator, before you start it up at the start of the day, check the oil. And I've shown you how to do that in a previous thing. Just take the little cover off, take the dipstick out, make sure you can see the oil in there. So we check our oil, we check our fuel daily. It's a good habit to get into. Now, oil, I've talked about it a million times. You need 15W40 for a petrol engine. 15W40 must be that viscosity, okay? Oil changes. The first one after 20 hours running time and then 50 hours after that, okay? Now you're probably going, Buck, how do I know when my generator has run for 20 hours? Do I need to keep a logbook? Now I know my old mate Pap, if you're watching, mate, g'day. Pap's got some old, not inverter generators, some old style generators that don't have a meter on there that tell him how much. Pap keeps a logbook and he's very strict on it, and if he runs his generator for he just ran both of them up in the cyclone, and he ran them for like 30 or 50 hours or whatever. He's without power for a long time. He logged that down in his logbook so that he could keep track of when his next oil change is due. Don't have to do that with this generator. There's a little digital display on there that tells you the volts coming out of the generator, the frequency, which is like 50 hertz. If anyone can explain that to me, don't even bother trying. It's probably going to be as confusing as the kVA thing. So the hertz, and then you push the little button again and it tells you how many hours are on your generator. And at the moment, if I put it on there, I've only got 2 hours on this generator, so I've got another 18 hours to go before I need to do my first oil change. I'm going to do a clip on that, by the way, show you how easy it is. And so continuous hours, or continuity, you know, the continuous hours that you've done, and then the other one is how long the generator has been running from the time you turned it on. Okay, so you can tell your total hours and then how long it's been running. So if you're running the generator on around half power, running a fridge or something like that, and it's been going for say 3.5 hours, you can think, oh, I've probably got about half a tank of fuel left. One of the things I haven't mentioned yet that I wish this generator had, and it's a con of this generator, it does not have a fuel gauge. You can't tell how much fuel's in there. Wish it had a fuel gauge. Engel, if you're watching, get onto that. Bloody put some sort of fuel gauge indicator on there, so you can, when your Jenny's running, you can come along, look on the top and go, oh, I've got about half a tank left. Instead of having to stop the generator, open it up, you know what I mean? Like, it'd be good if this had a fuel gauge. Some generators do, this one does not, and that is one of the cons of this generator. Okay, the other con, it's a kind of a con, it didn't have the carbon monoxide cut-off, okay, which is a big safety feature. But as I said, if you run it outside, you shouldn't have to worry about that. So oil changes with 15W40 after the first 20 hours and then every 50 hours after that, okay? It says check your air cleaner every day, pain in the bum, unless you're working in dusty conditions and you need to blow it out. But it says check your air filter after 20 hours and replace it after 50. If you're not working in dirty and dusty conditions, it may not need replacing after 50 hours. Just give it a blowout and assess it from there, okay? Spark plug, it says check and adjust after 100 hours, so you might need a set of feeler gauges. Check and adjust after 100 hours, replace after 250 hours, and you can tell that by hit that little button on the front there. There's a tiny little black button. Hit that 3 times and that tells you the total hours your generator has done. So it does have this feature. I forgot to mention that earlier on, sorry guys. The spark arrestor, take that out and clean it periodically every 50 hours of operation. Take it out, give it a blowout, light brush with a wire brush if you need to, the spark arrestor. And then we're getting into cylinder heads and all that type of stuff. I'll take it into a proper mechanic to do that if it ever needs the cylinder heads checked every 100 hours of operation. No, it doesn't, sorry, every 250 hours of operation. I'll probably get a small engine in a coastal marine here. I might take it in after 250 hours and get them to check that. That's not something I do myself. But the oil changes, changing your spark plug, changing your air filter, that's something you can do at home, guys. Even if you're not a mechanic or a small engine mechanic, that's something you should be able to knock over at home. And I'll show you how to do the first oil change as soon as I clock 20 hours up on this Jenny. Now, the other important thing I want to talk about is we don't use our generators all the time, do we? Unless you're traveling around Australia in your caravan and you're using it a lot of the time maybe. But around the house, I might only need to use this once a year. What I do intend to do, however, is once a month, I'm going to pull this generator out and I'm going to run it up and I'm going to put a load on it. Might boil a jug or something and just let it run for an hour. Like anything, I found it with anything mechanical, as soon as you don't use it, it breaks. Like, I think mechanical items need to be used. When they sit around and don't get used, that's when things start going wrong. They develop oil leaks and all this type of stuff. So like a car, a boat, anything, keep them moving. It's a bit like me getting old now. I've got to keep moving or I seize up. It's a bit like mechanical equipment. I think you're better off trying to run it every now and then, and that way when you do need to use it, you know it works. So I'm going to try and run this generator religiously every month. Pull it out, check the oil, top the fuel up, grab the jug or a kettle or plug the fridge in or something like that and run it for a couple of hours or an hour just to make sure she's still clicking over okay. So try and get out and run your equipment regularly so you know it works. Nothing worse than you haven't used it for 18 months, cyclone hits, you go to fire it up and it doesn't work because you haven't been testing your equipment. Now they also recommend, I've read online, that if you're going to store your generator for a long period of time, empty the fuel tank and then start it and let the carby run dry, and don't store it with fuel in it because the fuel can go stale and it starts gunking up and all that through the lines, and that's when you start having problems with it. Once again, because it hasn't been getting used. Another reason to keep using your generator. Went into Super Cheap Auto yesterday and I got some of this stuff. Fuel Stabiliser. And if you buy one of the maintenance kits for these Engel generators, it comes with Fuel Stabiliser. It's probably the same stuff as that for all I know. I haven't actually bought the maintenance kit yet. They didn't have one in stock. So I'll just run you through this Fuel Stabiliser. That was $19.99, 20 bucks from Super Cheap. Tiny little bottle, a 236ml bottle, so not even a quarter of a litre, and that'll treat up to 80 litres of unleaded petrol. Okay, which is 20 gallons for the Yanks over there watching. So that will treat a lot of fuel. If you've got 4 20-litre jerrys, you could put a quarter of a bottle of that in each jerry and you've got treated fuel there. What it does, and I'll just read it off the back there, it keeps fuel fresh for up to 24 months. So if you're gonna store your generator with fuel in it, this is a must. Store it with Stabiliser in the fuel. I probably should have been doing this with my boat because my boat hasn't been getting enough use. Going to correct that soon. I probably should have been keeping Stabiliser in my boat fuel because that's something I haven't used enough of recently. Prevents gum, varnish and corrosion. Effective for all types of petrol and safe for all petrol engines including 2-stroke. Not that this is a 4-stroke, but it's safe for all things. So unleaded fuel there. If I was, and I might start using it, I might have a dedicated fuel jerry just for the generator and I might put Fuel Stabiliser in there. I could even just put that through all my petrol because I use it on the boat as well, so I might do that. So if this is sitting around for a month and I'm going to leave the fuel in it, I'm not going to empty it every time because I intend running it monthly. I am going to use Fuel Stabiliser, and I've read online that they do recommend to use Fuel Stabiliser for generators because, as you know, Jennies sit around in the shed for a long time on end without use. So just my recommendation, try and get your Jennies out of the shed, try and run them up regularly, once a month maybe, once every 2 months or whatever, and use a good Fuel Stabiliser, okay, which stops your fuel going off, sitting in the lines. And when you do put a Fuel Stabiliser, just don't, whatever, I'll work out the measurements. So for 4.5 litre tank, I'll work out how much of this I can tip in. Just don't put it in the fuel tank. Actually start the generator up, run it for 5 minutes and make sure the fuel gets through all the fuel lines and that, so you've got stabilised fuel through the carby and through your fuel lines and everything. So don't just put it in the petrol tank, run it through the generator or run it through the engine of whatever it is, maybe even your boat engine or whatever. Okay, so there you go. That's all I wanted to say about maintenance. If I've forgotten anything, let me know in the comments and I'll try and address it. This is just some general knowledge stuff for not just this Engel generator, but for any generator. So yeah, once again, I'd love to see a fuel gauge on this generator. I don't know if the big 3500W Engel has a fuel gauge. I'm not sure. This one doesn't. I wish it did have. It'd certainly make it a lot easier. And one thing I did forget to mention is the little black button on the digital display there. If you push the button, it gives you volts, frequency, total hours of the generator, and then the fourth one will be how many hours it's been running on this tank of fuel, if you know what I mean. So it does have the, because I was thinking yesterday, oh, how do I know when my 20 hours is up? Well, I don't have to keep a logbook. I just push the button there and it'll go, you're on 18 hours. So I know in 2 hours time, I've got my first oil change or whatever. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you got a little bit out of this clip. The main thing is, I think, is fuel stabiliser. That is a must. I think if you're going to keep your generators stored with the fuel in there. Okay, and once again, get out and run them up every now and then. Everything, your boat, your cars, your generators, anything that's got an engine in it, get it out and give it a run up and make sure it's still working so that you know it's working when you do need it. Take it easy. That concludes part 5. Part 6, I'm going to plug some stuff into this and test it out, probably an air conditioner, a fridge and all that type of stuff. That'll be later on down the track. And then when I get my generator switch on the house by the electrician, the Sparky coming out, and then we'll hook it up to the generator switch, and I'll start seeing what this generator can do as far as running stuff in the house. My mate Pap, he had a 2.5, not the same Jenny as this, a 2.5 kVA Furman brand generator. So it wasn't an inverter Jenny, just a normal 2.5 kVA, and he said it ran his couple of his fridges in the house, lights, fans and all that type of stuff. So that's really all I need this to do, is maybe run the main fridge in the kitchen and run some ceiling fans. If I can do that, I'll be very happy, but I've got to get that generator point put in by the electrician before I can do that. So more exciting stuff coming up in the future. Hope you're enjoying the thing. I think part 2 just dropped this morning, the unboxing. Got a part 3 where I run you over the generator. That's already out. By the time you see this, you've probably seen them. Part 4 actually started up, and part 5 is this one, talking about the maintenance of the Engel 2500W generator. See you later. Take care. Be good to each other. Catch you again soon, eh? We'll see what this bad boy can do when I start hooking some stuff up to it. See you later.